a brilliant scientist, an invention that could change the world, an insect that ruins everything. All this can only mean one thing. We're comparing The Fly in this episode of Retro versus Remake.
I'm Reggie Parker.
And I'm Dan Bulick. Welcome to another episode of Retro versus Remake, the podcast where we compare movies and their remakes. Join us as we ask the question, should this remake exist? Today's episode is The Fly. The Fly, originally made in 1958, starring David Hedison, Patricia Owens, Vincent Price, Herbert Marshall, and Charles Herbert. Directed by Kurt Newman, screenplay by James Clavell, and music by Paul Sawtelle. The Fly, 1986, starring Jeff Goldblum, Gina Davis, John Getz, and Joy Bushell. Directed by David Cronenberg. Screenplay by Charles Edward Progue and David Cronenberg. Music by Howard Shore. And I just want to mention that both of these films are actually influenced by the short story of the same name by George Langland. He originally wrote a short story for Playboy. I thought that was kind of cool.
It was kind of cool.
All right, Reggie, what is your first experience with either film?
First experience with either film is, once again, for this podcast.
Really? You never saw it? Wow.
Never saw The Fly. It was one of those things where I wouldn't share that information at parties because people would react like,
really? You didn't see The Fly?
Never seen The Fly. I'm surprised I haven't seen The Fly, to be honest.
So am I,
you know?
Clearly.
But which made this...
God, my dog's crying a lot, so apologies in advance if it's coming through to any of the audio.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I mean, this was my first experience with either film. In a way, that's an advantage.
Yeah.
I had no preconceived notions.
Yeah, rose-colored glasses for you.
Sure.
I had seen the remake.
Okay.
When I was pretty young.
Right.
So
that's messed up.
Not an age you should have seen this. Yeah, it definitely scared the shit out of me when I was a kid, you know? Because I'm so young, so it can't happen to me, but maybe it could happen to my dad.
Right.
So I was like, oh God, is this going to happen to my dad?
Goldblum, my dad? It's possible based on what we saw in this film.
So it definitely terrified me. I had never seen the original, but I guess I had seen parts of it, or at least it inspired one episode of The Simpsons, 3 hours, where Bart changes, doesn't fuse with the fly, but his head gets replaced with Fly's head, and then he gets to live out as a little fly. So I was like, oh, that's where they got it, because they didn't exactly copy the remake. They went after the original, which is interesting for The Simpsons to do.
Yeah, in a weird way, like you're mentioning, in popular culture, like the parts of The Fly I remember that I know of, I was assuming were part of this remake, but they're actually more reference the original, most of pop culture.
It is interesting. And I'm just going to throw this out there early. I swear, I looked this up and I was talking to you about it. I looked up that the original was in black and white. I mean, we watched it in color, right? But I swear I saw it somewhere in black and white, or some reviewer talking about it, and then I saw it in passing black and white. Apparently, a lot of people think they saw the original in black and white, but it's not in black and white at all. It's the Mandela effect coming in. Yeah. We're all remembering it wrong. Apparently, the 2 sequels to the original are in black and white. But the original was definitely shot in color.
Cheap bastard.
So just if anybody thinks they saw the original in black and white, let me know, because I feel like I definitely saw clips of it in black and white. And maybe we are in a parallel universe.
It's like that Sinbad movie that doesn't exist.
The Sinbad where he's a genie.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there are a significant amount of differences in this film.
Yes.
Let's get into that. So before we do that, we'll do the synopsis, of course. They are very different, so this is a very brief synopsis, more like footnotes, really.
Sure.
But I'll do my best to kind of sum up exactly what we're going to talk about. Here we go. A scientist is working on a teleportation device. It disintegrates all object cells in one pod and reintegrates them in another pod, for teleportation. The only other person who knows about this is his female partner. So far, the device only works on inanimate objects. The scientist experiments on living organisms with less than stellar results. I'm sure we'll talk about that. He keeps at it and is eventually able to teleport animals. He He then decides to teleport himself. This is where things go wrong. A housefly enters the machine as well, and their DNA is mixed. The scientist is no longer a man, and is becoming more fly by the moment. He ultimately decides, with the female partner, to end his life before the fly totally takes control. The end. Bum, bum, bum. That's our sci-fi horror synopsis. Like I said, they're very different films. So I couldn't really connect too much. Like the names are all completely different. Mm-hmm. The order of events is different. And I think that should probably be where we start this discussion. Right. I mean, do you want to start with like how it's told, or just like how they're kind of just two different movies, genre-wise? Which one do you think? Maybe the genre.
Let's talk genre.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. You know, they're both classified as sci-fi horror films, but I feel like that name is more appropriate for the remake than the original.
Totally. The effects and the horror in the remake squarely put it in that category of science fiction horror, whereas in the original, the sci-fi is definitely a major part of the film, but you're kind of unpacking a mystery, like as to how things happen. I mean, should we start talking about that, or should we stay?
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of one and the same. Yeah. I mean, they help each other, so I think go into that.
There's this question of how the scientist dies, or like the events that led up to it in the first that's you're not quite getting in the remake because everything's sequential. You're seeing events as they occur, whereas you almost have to go backwards to find out how we had the beginning of the movie.
Because the original starts off with pretty much the end of the movie, with the scientist already dead.
Right.
And the whole time you're just trying to figure out why he's dead, what happened, what are the series of events that led up to this. Mm-hmm. That's the hook of the original, so it's more of a mystery thing. Whereas the remake, they, like you said, they go in order, and the hook isn't so much like what happened, but like what is going to happen.
Right.
Because it doesn't really happen until like he teleports with the fly. And then that's where they hook you, like, okay, what's going to happen to him now? Right? So it's like just totally different approaches to telling the story, where one's like a mystery and one's more just like a regular telling of the story.
The remake is more of a progression. It builds into ultimately what it becomes in a very smart way. It's like subtly getting more and more disturbing as you're watching it.
Yeah.
The original, the more disturbing parts are what's going on. Is this woman crazy? Are these people normal? Like how? Really, the question is what's going on in the original. And I think that though they're different, each movie respectfully serves its purpose by the way they're telling the story.
Yeah, the original, the way it's told, because it is like this mystery, like what happened, and then like did he really turn to a fly? Mm-hmm. It could almost be a psychological thriller.
Sure.
Because it's like it could all be in her head, and she just murdered her husband.
Shutter Island.
Yeah, right? Seriously, it could have been like the way they set it up. They easily could have went that route where she's just insane and just had this fantasy that her husband became a fly.
I mean, the movie, like you were saying, could very well just kept walking in that direction. You don't really get the reveal that it was true until the end, and by then it's so horrific that everyone's like, "Oh, geez." I love the part where they're just like, "Well, I could have set the machine wrong. Yeah, he could have done it himself."
Right? They're just trying to like make it up and to make sure she doesn't go to jail for any murder.
Yeah.
But we're getting it.
We're getting
Yeah. The remake going a different route, not doing mystery. I think it was the right move
for that film. Honestly, this is the first remake that we're watching where they basically threw away one genre and the way they tell the story.
Right.
Where most of our remakes are pretty much in some ways doing a one-to-one,
almost a beat for beat thing.
Mm-hmm. The only other film that's kind of like this is that Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the first film that we watched.
That's kind of, I guess I could see the similarities too, because that was also more based on the book than it was the original film.
Right.
And then this is based on the short story, but even like just comparing it to that, like the original film is truer to that short story than this remake was.
That's fair.
So it was a big departure. A lot of that was Cronenberg.
Right.
He came in with a lot of rewrites. He wanted to do something completely different because they're reading what they originally did. there was a lot of elements from that original film.
Okay.
But he ultimately decided, no, I really want to change a lot of it. And good changes.
It was very, very good changes. It felt of the time, even like from the opening sequence, they're at the art gallery. It's very 80s.
Yeah.
Like it feels, I don't know. It's an 80s film, but it doesn't do that 80s cheese that we're kind of used to.
It does. It like sort of gets close to it in the beginning.
Yeah. Sure.
But then it really kind of becomes its own thing.
Absolutely.
It's definitely not an 80s film.
Yeah.
By that definition.
I think that it's a bold choice because people are very precious with original films, as you know, we're finding out ourselves as we're watching these movies. But I think that by doing its own thing, standing on its own merits, I don't really have a complaint about it because it's a nice take on it.
No. And just going back to, like, they're both classified as sci-fi horror. I really wouldn't classify the original as horror unless it's considered, like, B-movie horror. Because it's, like, really, like, especially by today's standards, there's nothing really horrific about it. I mean, you know, the mystery part draws you in.
Right.
But you called the movie The Fly, right?
Right.
You kind of showed your hand a little early there with the title of the film.
Right.
So we know what's going to happen. We just want to see, I guess, but we're still willing to go for the ride because they did set it up in an interesting enough way.
I agree.
But I feel like the mystery is definitely weakened by calling it The Fly.
Sure. Whereas, like, in this film, especially towards the end of the remake, like you could definitely put that just in the genre of horror. Whereas this original film, like Little Shop of Horrors, the original, is scarier as a film than this is. There's not really a lot of horror in this film. But the big kind of like quoted moment, the big sort of reveal that has stood the test of time in terms of like popular culture, it's pretty screwed up.
Yeah.
It was definitely screwed up. And I think the remake leans more into that type of scare with a lot of interesting practical effects.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're kind of leaning into this direction, so maybe we should just talk about The Fly in both movies.
Sure.
So we have two very different interpretations of how you become a fly. I guess we'll go into the actual science of like what happens in each movie first, and then we'll describe.
Yeah. So we can do the science, and we'll come back to more character-driven stuff later.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just like what physically happens to our lead scientist in each movie. Well, in the original, when he goes into the teleporter with the fly, when he comes out the other end, parts of their bodies have been swapped. Right. So he comes out with his human body, but one of his arms has been replaced with a fly leg or whatever appendage, and then his whole head has been replaced with a fly head, and he can't talk at all. Right. And the change is instant. We should also make that distinction too. Yeah,
like in the original film, you know, he does experiment. Like, you don't see what happens. And there is still this mystery because he's covering his head, he's covering his arm, and
he's got his hand in his pocket and he's got a towel over his head. You know, it's again, I might say this a few times during this podcast, but B movie stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
Totally. Especially by today's standards,
it
definitely falls into the camp of camp. Actually.
Yeah. I'm sure it was terrifying at the time.
I'm sure.
But our standards have been raised since.
Even though you more or less know what's happening, because he's covering key areas where it's like, all right, there must have been some sort of change.
Right, but the movie's called The Fly, so you know what probably happened under that towel.
Exactly, but it still lets you play out that mystery. Yeah. And there's this struggle early on to try to find the fly and like solve. Like there seems to be more hope, I think, in that film as to actually like correcting this in some way. Everyone thinks that they're going to be able to. The remake, Jeff Goldblum isn't very concerned with becoming a fly early on. Actually, it's almost, in a weird way, it's kind of like the Spider-Man effect. He's almost like a super Goldblum.
Well, we should mention that he doesn't swap body parts with the fly at all. It's a total fusion of the two of them, right? The fly does not come out on the other end of the teleporter. It's just Jeff Goldblum, and he looks normal at first. A great point. You know, if everything seems okay, but you know everything's not okay. The movie's called The Fly. This guy's going to turn into a fly. Yeah. So that's like I said before, that's the hook. You're waiting to see how much of a fly this guy's going to turn into.
Right.
And
Oh,
you definitely see later. Yeah. But yeah, it's a complete fusion as opposed to just swapping some body parts.
Totally. And in that way, a lot less scenes of people listening and looking for flies.
Yes.
There's a lot less fly catching in the film and just more of this, like you said, instead of swaps, the fusion just makes it like you said, more psychological in a way. And you're just seeing a man transforming, mutating into something that is just inhuman.
Yeah.
Creepy.
It is very creepy. And I really like how it's not an instant transformation.
I think that's a smart.
Yeah, that was definitely a smart move because in the original, when he turns into a fly, he can't talk anymore.
Mm-hmm.
He only communicates by pounding once for yes and twice for no, and that's it. And we didn't spend a lot of time with our protagonist previous to that, so you don't really get a lot of first perspective and like how this is affecting him. You know he doesn't like it,
right?
That he wants to cure himself, but you really don't get a lot from him as opposed to the Jeff Goldblum character who, maintains a lot of his humanity still till pretty much the end of the film. He's able to talk, and I think that downward spiral journey is just such an interesting one that they did in the remake.
It draws the focus from kind of like finding out what happened because, I mean, like I said, they tip their hand, you know what's going to happen.
Yeah. So
like we're taking more attention away from in the original film where you're trying to figure out what happened to now in this remake, more character driven, and you're seeing the effects of this transformation on a singular person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if you're going to have a lead, you might as well use your lead. And we'll definitely get into more character driven stuff. What are your thoughts on the science of the disintegrator integrator versus the telepod?
Telepods. Well, it's kind of the same science, right? I mean,
but there's more boops and beeps.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the original being kind of like a B movie, yeah, it's when you think of scientists, I guess in the 50s, you got a bunch of lights and different mechanisms that you click on, but you don't know what they do, but they look pretty. They look like, it looks like a scientific lab, as opposed to the '86 remake where it's just two of these pods which look kind of like cocoons. I love the design of that.
Oh, yeah.
And it just hooked up to a '80s computer. Lot more simple than all the lights and gizmos of the original.
I found the amount showing the machine in the original to be overly done. It's like every time you're going to use the pod, I don't need to see a light show, as it were. And I think the remake does a good job of it's working. We don't have to like
show the object teleporting every time. I think I put myself in the shoes of like a filmmaker in the 50s. Like that's a pretty impressive.
No, that's the thing.
Feat to make something disappear on the screen like that. So you're gonna milk it for all it's worth. At that point.
And you got to imagine that audiences at that time would have been very impressed with that display. So it's a good point. It doesn't age well, but I definitely see why they did it.
Yeah. And then just going back to the design of it, like the original telepod or disintegrator integrator.
Disintegrator integrator.
Which just rolls off the tongue.
Trademark.
It's just like pretty much just a glass box.
Yeah.
As opposed to like the heavy black machinery that looks like a cocoon in the remake. So again, like I love the design of the telepods in the remake.
I didn't think I was going to want to talk about this so early, but like the remake is obviously like just a more sexual film, and I found it interesting that like in the more kind of muted 1950s way, it's like here's a ashtray your aunt got us, and like that's the inanimate object versus like let me get one of your stockings and like just teleporting that.
That's true. That was an interesting first object to
it really
teleport.
Was.
Let me just show you a bunch of my leg and give you my stocking. It's like all right.
Like I said, the first movie feels more sanitized, like that 50s sort of sensibility, whereas this remake is, I don't know, there's just that 80s like sex just dripping off of it. The computer is ambiguous, but like I like that they don't really get into a huge explanation of how the machine works, whereas like in the original, well, my dear, it's just like a TV. I like that. I don't know.
Well, I'm going to go back again. Like, this is pretty uncharted territory, so maybe people need a bigger explanation of how a teleporter would work, as opposed to like, you know, by the 80s, like, yeah, I get it, I've seen Star Trek, right? I think it predates Star Trek, right? Yeah, so like, everybody's seen Star Trek since the original, so everybody knows how a teleporter works.
Yeah, absolutely. To your point, at that point, they can even call it a telepod. Whereas disintegrator, like that, it's kind of like which is always the fun of science fiction when you go back and watch and think what they think the future is going to be like, and it just has that like feel of like the old school like washing machine commercials, or like something like that. It cleans. My dear, it's a disintegrator integrator, taking matter and turning it into other matter over there.
I get it. It does feel like almost like an infomercial.
Yeah, right. Like when he's explaining it, it's like, don't you hate when your hands get soggy?
Don't you hate it when I accidentally put the cat in there and the cat's dead now?
We'll
talk about the animal.
We'll talk about that stuff. But yeah, I mean, overall, like, I guess what we're getting at is that the science is established enough, even though it's still futuristic and doesn't actually exist, even to this day. 80s audience is going to give you leeway, especially the 80s. I mean, like, there was all kinds of weird science going on at the time. There was all kinds of, like, science fiction, so, like, people would just accept a teleporter.
Yeah.
And it's impossible for us to go back to the 50s, but I don't really know how people felt about that type of technology at the time.
I always just put myself, like, they're much more naive in the 50s. They don't know what they're doing. So, like, you have to over-explain everything back then. Just, like, going back to, like, remember when we did Psycho?
Right.
They really explained, like, what it's like to have, like, that break from reality where he was his mom and he's himself at the same time. Right. It's like, 'cause that was so new back then. So, I always give them, like, you know...
a little bit of
leeway. Like, all right. Totally. You gotta explain it. But I want to go back to, you had touched upon it and then I kind of interrupted you. So we said the original, when he turns into a fly, it like sucks right away. His life sucks.
Right.
But like when the fusion happens in the remake, his life is pretty good.
Yes.
I kind of want to touch on that a little bit.
Okay.
I thought that was like we said, that's really good decision, I think, because that lets us stay with our main character and we kind of go on this roller coaster ride with them where things seem really good at first before they take that nosedive.
I think just to give ourselves more freedom to discuss this as well, we can sort of move into the phase where we're talking about the protagonist, because there was really not much to say about Andre. You know, that's the name of the scientist in the first film.
Yep.
He's a family man. Really, relatively to other main characters, he gets close to no screen time.
Yeah, especially since he has to wear a fly mask.
Yes.
That is actually the actor in the fly mask.
Oh,
it's not
cool.
just some random dude.
That's cool. And it's just one of those things where... you know, he's fun, but, you know, your standard 50s guy. I love my wife and I love science. All the joys and wonders of the world. We can make it a better place. And then he's a fly. We can fast forward completely by that because, like, he's barely a character, and I would argue other characters are the lead in the film.
Yeah.
But Goldblum, we gotta unpack this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Seth Brundle.
Like we're saying, his life isn't bad at the beginning. You know, I like that they just kind of pick up at this like party, and he's
just randomly at this art party.
Yeah.
Okay, why not?
Yeah. And he's talking to Gina Davis, who, by the way, fantastic in this film. She sells it. She's hot.
I mean, she's obviously gorgeous in the film, but like she's like really good in it too.
Oh, that too. Yeah. Let's not just objectify her.
This horror movie works so much just because of her reactions to Jeff Goldblum becoming a fly.
She adds this human element to it, where like Jeff, you know, he's a man of science. He's kind of like focused more on like clearly his work and like how he's doing things.
Socially awkward, definitely. I put a lot of creepy notes in when his first interactions with Gina Davis.
Sure. Right, which then like kind of why you get like the idea, give me your stocking. Like it is weird for him to want to do that. But,
I was surprised he didn't smell the stocking.
That came later. But you know, like we're learning more about him through the lens that she's she's a journalist, which is a good touch. He's scientific, but he didn't really make the parts. He's just kind of like ordering the parts and putting them together. So it feels like he's kind of like
He's almost like the Steve Jobs kind of.
Yeah.
Like, I have an idea for this, make it happen, and I'll put it together. Right. Kind of. That's the gist of what I got from him.
Yeah, and it sort of replicates the original film where no one else really knows about what he's doing. So he's kind of like shopping out these parts, so no one knows that he's making.
Kind of like, I don't always bring him up, but kind of like Batman and Batman Begins, where he just got different parts from different sections, so nobody could figure out.
Cool.
No, when he ordered the mask and Batman Begins, yeah. Like,
totally.
10,000 of those from there, 10,000 of these from there. Nobody will know I'm Batman.
But I love that you brought up the socially awkward part, because he is awkward, and super awkward, very nerdy. But when he fuses with the Fly, and again, for some reason, I really don't understand why the Fly splicing has made him like
super horny.
He does random gymnastics in his home now.
I like that.
I love that.
I just need to pole vault.
and it's like clearly there's something wrong, because he's got like hairs going out his back. But like it's not immediately observable that a change has happened, other than he's acting weirder and seemingly stronger for reasons.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good idea. You want this thing to almost seem like a gift before it seems like a curse. And because if it's just sucky immediately, then it's like, well, I don't want to be on this hour-long ride where your life just sucks, man. It's kind of depressing. Totally. You know, bring us up before you bring us down.
And like you're saying, bringing it up, it makes you get behind the character in a way, because you're watching him, it's like, oh shit, life's getting pretty cool for this guy.
Pretty good.
Towards the end, like in my notes, I started to say it was almost like a drug metaphor, because he's trying to keep that high.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's very good.
Again, using the machine like sort of dubiously, just more than he should, I guess. Like, it's not like he just hits the telepod once. He goes back in and he wants to put other people in.
Yeah. He's like, you gotta try it too. This is amazing. You want to feel like I feel? Come on, man.
Yeah. Meanwhile, like, skin's starting to fall off, ears are starting to fall off. But
and he's got all those zits from all that sugar.
Yeah. At first, it's a subtle turn where like everything's going really good, and then like it just slowly starts to just kind of decay almost.
Yeah. And
he feels, according to him, he feels great, but he's starting to look more and more monstrous, and his behavior becomes monstrous. He is the movie monster.
Yeah.
In this scenario, and it's a interesting turn, and I think Cronenberg captures it really well with these beautiful effects, by the way, of the man becoming the monster, which I don't think I was really expecting that from The Fly.
No, it was beautiful. And just going back to the beautiful makeup, the effects were created by Chris Wallace and makeup artist Stevis Dupis, and I just wanted to say amazing. Yeah. Amazing effects. I talk about a lot how I love practical effects. This is one of the best use of practical effects I've ever seen in a movie.
I knew you were going to like this one.
I loved it.
Even to this day, like, it holds up. Like, it looks real.
Yeah, it doesn't really look too fake at all. Maybe towards the very end.
The acidity things with some of the effects on like on actual humans, like when people lose hands or like arms break or stuff like that. Like, that stuff looks a little cheesy and fake, but like the effect of The Fly, and I think because they went the route of not really making them look like a fly, so you don't have this mask.
Right. So it doesn't look like... I'm just going to say, the original looks kind of dumb and cheesy.
Oh, it looks very dumb.
Like, yeah, because like he takes...
Very Twilight Zone.
It's this big reveal in the original where she's like, oh my god, he looks like a fly. And it's kind of comical. Because it doesn't look scary at all.
It's like Merp.
These big eyes, this goofy antenna, you know, it's not scary because it's just so like, wow, that looks kind of stupid on a person's body. But like the slow, like disintegrated transformation of Jeff Goldblum's character, you know, and I just really love the small moments, like when he's just in front of the mirror, like when he's picking off his fingernails.
Oh my god!
That even today, I was just like watching. I was like, oh, I cannot handle that.
Nah,
it looks so good how they did it. Those practical effects are brilliant.
Totally.
Just picking off his fingernails one at a time, and not just the makeup effect, but the sound design for it too.
Right.
Like I was just so immersed in it. Like, it felt so real the way they did it. It was
100%,
crazy.
100% agree. He gets the effect where he's putting the mittens on his hands.
Yeah, he can't type without those mittens.
Oh man! But like, it's that slow, like you're saying, disintegration, decay into the monster, and it's like his features are becoming more and like slowly though, like more, like the teeth eventually change, and
he's still recognizable as a
yes,
human. It's not until the very end that we see his transformation. So we're able to really sort of put ourselves in that position. Like, wow, if this was me, like, what would happen? You know, it's like, damn, and it's relatable. And
kind of getting back to Jeff Goldblum's portrayal as a scientist, and I think Jeff Goldblum does this well, and pretty much every time he does this in a sciencey movie, he's really good at being like intrigued in a way that like most people would be horrified and be trying to figure out what the hell's going on. He's more like, interesting. Bundle has become fly. Like,
and he has a really good way of selling it, like where you would be horrified. It's like, I guess I could see it as intriguing the way you're talking about it.
Right.
So he's really good at that.
Yeah. And like, you know, Gina Davis just has to kind of like just observe what's happening to this
react
person. You know? And again, she has a great reaction. I'd even say the original actress, Patricia Owens, she sells it too with her classic 50s scream.
She sells the scream. I'll get into that more when we talk about the female leads.
But I don't know. There's just something very compelling. This is going to be a weird sort of example, but like I found the movie felt more like almost like The Joker to me, the movie that just came out. It felt more like a character study because we spent so much time with Jeff Goldblum and how he's becoming this thing and how it's affecting his relationship with Gina Davis in Hookers. Well, no, she's not a hooker.
She's a random bar fly.
Hey.
But yeah, I think that's definitely one of the strengths of the remake is because after he sort of fuses with this fly, we stay on this journey with him. And like you said, Jeff Goldblum has this way of selling this curse as like this, with this intrigue. Like, man, I really want to see what's happening. I want to know what's happening. You know, parts of his body are falling off, but he's like preserving them. You know, he's never like fully freaked out. You know, he'll vomit in front of Ronnie, but he'll be like, "Oh, that was a little disgusting." You know,
right.
He'll like sort of apologize, but he's not like
acid.
He's not like breaking down. He's not really regretting what happened to his life. He's so intrigued by it, and you're sort of intrigued. Right. You're going along for the ride with him because like his intrigue is your intrigue.
Which I think is how the Gina Davis character is able to sort of sell not freaking out right away because he's trying to keep her calm.
Right.
And I love, we mentioned this before, and I'll actually sort of read it, but like I love where I knew the turn was like, all right, he's done. He goes in this crazy monologue, and I'll just kind of read it out loud really quick. And this is Jeff Goldblum. You're afraid to dive into the plasma pool, aren't you? You're afraid to be destroyed and recreated, aren't you? I bet you think you woke me up about the flesh, don't you? But you only know society's straight line about the flesh. You can't penetrate beyond society's sick, grave fear of the flesh. And it's just like, what the hell is he talking about? And like, here's the line. Drink deep or taste not the plasma spring. You see what I'm saying? And I'm not just talking about sex and penetration. No one was talking about that. I'm talking about penetration beyond the veil of the flesh, a deep penetrating dive into the plasma pool. So it's like he just starts turning like Jim Morrison. Like, ride the snake, man. Ride the plasma pool.
Ride the snake. You just needed leather pants. Nice. I did not think we'd be bringing up the Doors.
I didn't.
Excellent. Excellent.
Well,
Reggie.
In a way, it is like psychedelic. Well, back to the drug reference. It's this freaky ride.
That's true.
Into the like you could have done this in like a 80s like music video, you know, and it would have worked, you know. I just think that they do such a good job of, and I mean, between the direction, the makeup, all the set design, like you said, even the sound, they do a great job of making Jeff Goldblum become this monster. And Jeff Goldblum is totally selling it in a way that, like, at first, when you should already be on 10. And even as an audience member, I'm kind of like at a 5. It's like, all right, this is fucked up, but all right, nails came off. All right,
ear fell off. Oh,
still banging away. Let's see what happens. We'll talk about this too. Speaking of like Jim Morrison, for some reason, the weirdly raw sexual energy of Jeff Goldblum in this film, like he's not wearing shirts for most of the film.
That's what I remember from my youth. Like, hey, that dude doesn't wear a shirt, does he?
Yeah. And like you're taking a guy who like usually kind of plays more like nerd, and they kind of like sexed him up a little bit. And I mean, like physically he looks good as before he doesn't. You know. So, like, I'm totally sold that this guy's life is awesome, and then I'm realizing that, no, it's not. This is very bad.
Yeah.
And it just elevates in a way that's like, it's too late. It's too late to solve the problem. And it's interesting that he never really tried to solve it, as opposed to the original where...
That was just like his first instinct. We need to solve this.
I got a fly head.
Right. I better type on my typewriter.
Which, you know, ultimately just all dives back into your original point that the slow progression, how it affects the movie versus just that instant swap. Both serve their purpose, as we said before, but I love the progression in the remake.
Yeah, absolutely. Hands down.
Yep.
Yeah. Can't disagree with that. I mean, it's just so interesting. You really can put yourself in his shoes. Like, what would I be doing in that whole time? And it's like, his performance just like totally sells it. So, hats off to what they did in the remake with that.
Hats off to Jeff Goldblum, and unfortunately, in the original, I can't. If we're talking protagonist versus protagonist, Jeff Goldblum is just running away with this thing. Original actor, again, it's fine.
He's fine, but you said, they didn't give him a lot to work with. We don't even see him till like minute 26 of the movie.
We're almost like halfway through.
It's crazy because, like we said, it starts off with like his death, and so obviously he's dead, so he's not going to do anything.
Right.
And then you don't see him until a flashback, which happened, like I marked down, like around minute 26, where he's just like, "Hey, darling, I'm an inventor, and you're my wife. Isn't life dandy?"
Yeah.
So he's...
Oh, Dandaloo, the cat. We'll talk about that.
Yeah. He obviously he doesn't get as much screen time as Jeff Goldblum. Right. He doesn't get as much to do, and then you don't get to really get into his psyche once he's that fly. You just know he's tormented and he's trying to find a cure, which is it's just good. But you know what they did with Jeff Goldblum and just being able to be on him with the whole journey.
Sure.
So much more intriguing.
Just to springboard off of what you're saying there, when you're talking about the psyche, we're now moving this part of the film. The psychological side of it is more on the wife in the original. So I think we can start talking about our...
Okay, yeah, we can talk about our female leads.
Female leads.
Absolutely. We have Helene and Ronnie, or Veronica, and they're portrayed by Patricia Owens in the original and Gina Davis in the remake. Patricia Owens being the wife of our scientist, and Gina Davis being sort of the girlfriend, reporter.
Right. A lot of the original film is carried by Patricia Owens in terms of, really, the only, like you said, the hook that you have is that she's murdered her husband. No one can really explain it because, according to everyone that's ever known her, even the doctor, who I even delivered her, everyone is like, well, she wouldn't do this. She loves her husband. And it's actually compelling to see why a woman who's madly in love with her husband would do that to him. And we're trying to figure that out throughout the film. And meanwhile, it's like she's done this horrific thing. She won't tell anybody why she did it. Presumably because she knows no one's going to believe her. It's just now trying to unpack this mystery. And I really like the way that they have to go back and start from the beginning in the film. Versus Gina Davis, who's this journalist. We don't know much about her. We don't really know much about Jeff Goldblum. Yeah. But that's a good hook that she has a reason or an interest to still be kind of like meeting up with this guy besides just their relationship. It's the story of the century. Yeah. And at Particle Magazine, they're gonna break it. I just found that Gina Davis, in terms of like reaction, is great, but Patricia Owens is driving the story.
I think, to that point, the reason is because like Patricia Owens really has to. She's sort of the part of the mystery before we go in the flashback, and then she's sort of the character that we're following in the flashback. Right. Especially like we said before, once Andre becomes the Fly, he can't talk anymore. So everything we're hearing, she's even like he's typing her notes, she's reading them, we're hearing them through her voice. So it's her journey we're really following. Right. At the end, and like we never see Andre experiment on himself. We never see him trying to solve what's happening. We really follow her through the whole flashback. So she really carries a lot of that film, as opposed to the remake, where I feel like it's still kind of split. Oh no, it is split, really, because you do follow Jeff Goldblum by himself, and sometimes you do just follow Gina Davis by herself. So it's a little more even that way. But the original definitely leans heavily on the Helene character. Maybe a little bit of that Francois too. But it's definitely like, it's like you had said before, it feels like we're following two different people. We're following Helene in the original as opposed to the remake where we're following Jeff Goldblum more.
Right. And I mean, when we are following Ronnie, it more so has to do with the things going on in her own life, which is not distracting really in any way, but like interplay with her boss and stuff like that, who they've hooked up, and it's kind of in both directions a bit of a jealousy from Jeff Goldblum and from the boss character. Like, it's there, it's not heavy or really consequential ultimately in the film, but it just fleshes out her character a little bit more.
She's a lot more reactionary, I feel, which is not putting down her performance at all.
No.
It's an amazing reaction she has.
Exactly. For the love interest, as it were, you have that dynamic of she's independent in a way that Patricia Owens isn't. She's dating John Getz, kind of on and off from film scene. He's in Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
Yeah. Sue Ellen.
He plays Creep well. He plays Creep really well.
I think he was also in one of my other favorite movies, Men at Work.
He is in Men at Work. Yeah. I don't know, like, you get to see in the original film, like, Goldblum's sort of breakdown versus Patricia Owens kind of, to an extent, breaking down because she has to, like, deny knowing her own son. You know, she's about to be committed and stuff like that. Like,
yeah, that was weird.
Yeah. I just think that her hand's sort of forced because of her husband's mistake and her trying to, like, solve it. And it's a interesting dynamic for the female lead to be ultimately, because, like I say, he's just typing things, ultimately being really our true lead. The remake's just a little bit more split. I
get that she's, like, more of the lead in the original, and she carried it pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if I have to, like, compare the actresses and the performances they had to give, like, Patricia Owens is kind of unraveling this mystery for us, right?
Right.
While Gene Davis's Ronnie, I feel like her job is really to sell the horror to us.
Totally.
And if I had to compare, like, which one I think did their job better, I feel like Gene Davis sold the horror significantly better than Patricia Owens unraveled the mystery. I'm
with you. Because when I'm watching the 1958 film, Patricia Owens and, the Andre character, they just feel like 50s actors. You know, there's nothing spectacular about their performance.
It's not a lot of depth.
No. It's very, very much of the time.
Yeah.
And, you know, she does a great job, but you probably swap her out with any number of, like, starlets at the time. One of the strongest performances, and it's insane because he's not in the movie very long either. I mean, no one's in the movie that long because of mystery, but, like, Vincent Price, to me, is the strongest actor in that film.
I think he's able to convey the most emotion of all the actors in the film.
Right. And I think that's something that 50s acting struggles with. So Patricia Owens, she's, like you said, unraveling mystery. She's selling that to an extent, but you're right, she's not really selling. You know, it's fine, but it's...
She did, like you said, she had that one, like, scream for the horror aspect of the original, which we said, you know, I guess it's kind of horror, but, you know, it's just... when the costume doesn't look that good, you know, she did okay with what she had, but, like, you know, she didn't really, like, emote too much. Like, even after her husband died, she wasn't really, like, remorseful or anything. But you go back to Vincent Price and his character, like, he was just like, oh man, my brother, and this is the woman I think I'm in love with. Like, he's, like, so conflicted, and you can really see that in his portrayal.
You can see in his portrayal, he's conflicted, he's confused, none of it adds up to him.
Yeah.
And then there's also that component of he knows she wouldn't do this. Even if no one else believes her, he knows she wouldn't do this. And he, to the end, is trying to solve the mystery because ultimately he was trying to save the life of the woman he loves as well. Because she's about to go.
Life in prison.
To the crazy house. They probably zap her at that time.
Oh, yeah, true.
But, like, no, to your point, too, about the relationship, the movie just allows itself to just, well, that was horrific, but nice 50s ending. Like,
right. It definitely tries to go with a happy ending after the horrific events that just happened.
It's just like, all right, I guess.
What happened to Daddy? Well, Daddy was just very sick.
Yeah.
All right, let's all have a cocktail or something.
Totally. And it's like, and all right, guys, we got it. I'm now married to my.
I mean, yeah, because like you barely see any emotion from her,
Mm-hmm.
like she killed her husband. Her husband said the most emotion you really see from her is when the help tries to kill a fly,
Right?
Which is confusing because your husband's already dead at that point, so it's not like killing the fly would ruin any chances of your husband coming back because he's not coming back because you already killed him.
Right.
So I was confused by that, and that's the most emotion you get from her. They have a son in the original, Philippe.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't really show any emotion.
Right.
Daddy's dead, huh? That's right, nephew. Okay, uncle. It's you know, the 50s, like, you know, it's of the time, so we get it. I'm not gonna rip on it too much.
No, you're right.
There's a lot more emotion in the remake.
And I think you actually just hit a point that in the sequence I actually got a little lost. I almost forget that you're right. Though the body's gone, they're still looking for the fly because ultimately it's the husband. Maybe
you want to get into that, or because we talked about the fly, but we didn't talk about the tiny fly.
We didn't talk about the tiny fly.
Should we talk about the tiny fly? I feel like
we'll talk about the tiny fly. We'll just say this: Gina Davis sells it. The emotion is great. I'm giving her the edge just because she puts a human touch on this. That's just not there in the original.
Definitely.
To that point, tiny fly.
Tiny fly. Okay, as I said before, in the original, when he teleported with the fly, he changed limbs with the fly. He didn't fuse with the fly. So while he had a fly, an arm of a fly and the head of a fly, apparently the fly had the head of a human and the arm of a human.
Right.
A lot of the time in the original is spent trying to get this fly.
Yeah.
And chasing a fly, you know, in a movie is not very exciting.
You're right. Like, if you're talking about the drama in the scene, like in the remake, Jeff Goldblum's like jumping through windows and like it's a shotgun and like acid hands. Like the biggest action sequence in the film is the fly is in a window that's broken and she's gonna run outside and catch it. He's gonna try to catch it on the other side. That's like the biggest action in the movie.
By the way, if there's a hole in the window, why don't you just put your hand up to the window? She's like, no. Oh, no, he's going to get out. I'm going to go outside and try to catch him. It was the tiniest crack. Just cover it up. Now he can't escape.
Right.
Now you can get him.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of stupid moments in that original film with regards to catching the fly. That's one of them.
Yeah.
The other one is towards the end of the film when, you know, I'm probably getting here a little early, but whatever. When the fly is in the spider web.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the whole movie they're trying to catch the fly because first they think, I guess, that maybe they can help Andre become back human again. But then after he's dead, it's just to clear Patricia Owens' Helene character.
Right. Because
she's not crazy. She didn't make this up. He really did fuse or whatever with a fly. Mm-hmm. And if we find this fly, then we could come up with a bogus story so we don't have to arrest her.
Right.
And they ultimately, they're looking for it. You know, Vincent Price is like following a sound effect in a garden at one point. They follow just a noise for way too long in the original.
Happens quite a bit. You get that buzzing sound, and it's like, all right, like. It's just like, okay.
As action packed as the original can get. Yeah. Anyway, like I said, I really have trouble getting through this. They're looking for the fly, and there's one moment where Vince Price's character is on this bench outside, and there's a spider web next to him, and in that spider web is our Andre as the fly. Help me! Help me! It's completely laughable by today's standards. Totally. It was laughable by standards back then because it took Vincent Price so many takes to get through it because he couldn't stop laughing because it is pretty ridiculous to hear a tiny help me. The Simpsons did it too. Yeah. Bart was pretending to be like help me and they just smacked the spider in the face. So I couldn't help but think of the Simpsons as well.
Totally.
But yeah, it was just pretty laughable and then guess they showed us a close-up of it, and it looked like it was becoming human. It was confusing to me.
I just don't think they had the effect. I don't think they had the effect. I'll say that though a strange choice to have him look slimy and like human-y. Like I don't know, like he had a human arm.
He definitely had a human arm, and he looked like he was becoming more human. I guess as he was becoming more fly, the fly became more human. That's how I kind of
that's a good interpretation. I mean,
I don't know why Vince Price couldn't hear it at first, but like just going back to like how they are stupid at trying to capture this fly. Philippe goes up to his uncle. He's like, "I found the fly. He's gonna get eaten in that spiderweb." Instead of saving the fly, he immediately goes like, "I gotta tell everybody else about this first."
Yeah,
it's like, dude, save the fly. He's about to get eaten by a spider.
I thought that was so strange. It's like, yep, big spider's gonna get him. And it's just like,
I better go tell everybody first before I save him.
What's the guy's name? Detective or whatever.
Shiraz?
Yeah, Inspector, look, wait. You have to wait. I was like, all right, I'll wait. But I got ladies to commit. Another character who gives us more sort of humanity in the film, his reaction to, first of all, he goes nuts and just smashes the fly in. It's just like, oh, this is like an affront to God. Like, I can't.
Yeah, that's the only way I could interpret it. I thought he was going for the spider, and then it was oh, he killed Andre too. Yeah. Oh, did he mean to do that?
Yeah. And like Vincent Price, well, you're just as much a murderer as she is.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Good luck selling that. Like, that's the worst day that guy's like, well, that was fun. I saw it. I don't want to believe it. It's true. But you know what? Everyone's going to think we're all crazy, so you forgot to reset the machine. I forgot to...
You forgot this, I forgot that, and Helene's free to go.
Free to go. The effect is strange. I guess, like you said, maybe he is becoming more human by the end. I love that it actually gives Cronenberg like a reference point for what he does with Goldblum's fly. Because it just like that slimy, weird like look, I feel like they kind of channeled it in an 80s way as he got like farther along. It was definitely creepy.
Yeah, always wet.
It's super wet. I'm actually glad too in the remake that they don't have that like help me moment.
They do a little bit, but it's Jeff Goldblum saying it, and it doesn't have that comedic effect that it has in the original. Like, Tiny, help me! Come on, it's hard to sell that as like being dramatic at all. So Jeff Goldblum's just like, help me. Like, it's like, oh fuck, I better help him. This guy's dying. I don't know what to do. And then there goes Gina Davis just selling it again, just going anywhere she can for help. Yeah, powerful performances. Powerful movie.
Man, I wish John Getz was better at shooting things. Like Jeff Goldblum just kind of was like, eh.
I love. Okay, so I made fun of the original for like how stupid they were at catching the fly.
Right.
John Getz is kind of dumb. Like, I'm going to show up at this place with a shotgun unassembled. Yeah, I'm going to assemble it on the ground. I guess it takes a sweet ass time. It's like, come on, dude. If you're going to go
2 bullets. Yeah, that's a shotgun.
Guy's a giant fly. You show up with that shotgun locked and loaded, man. You don't show up with your fucking how to make a shotgun kit.
Like, he's seen the tape. Yeah. He knows what he's dealing with here. And he's just like, well, I'm going to, like you said, I'm going to show up and put it together.
It almost looked like a fucking, like, pool stick case.
You might as well have been loading a musket at that point.
Yeah, it's like, dude.
It's like, he cocks the shotgun and then, like, Goldblum.
Yeah. It's like, as great as the remake is, it's like, come on, you really have to assemble it there.
The end, there are some, like, goofy parts. I kind of like that, I really like the scene where she's dreaming about what it means to, like, be pregnant with a fly baby. Like, that was kind of cool, too.
Right, because Ronnie gets pregnant in the remake. In the original, Helene and Andre already have a kid, Philippe. There's no... And they don't bang after he becomes a fly. Ronnie and Seth, they do have sex a lot, like you said.
Yeah, a lot.
Oversexed Jeff Goldblum in this. And she's pregnant. She's not sure if she's pregnant after or before he fused with the fly. So she's really freaking out that she's pregnant. She has this nightmare that she's trying to have an abortion.
Right.
And what comes out is not human at all. And it's pretty terrifying.
Very larval.
Yeah. Very larval.
I mean, it's horrific. Yeah. Now I'm like, fuck, yeah. Abort that.
Kill that shit.
It's like next time...
No Republican's going to be like, all right.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, like, next time someone's in Congress, it's like, no, watch this. I believe in the sanctity of larva. I don't think that a woman should be able to. But it's so creepy. It's so creepy, man. And like you're just sitting there, like thinking about the consequences of like what this could mean, and it's portrayed amazing.
Yeah, it is a dream sequence.
It is,
which could be a cop out, but I'm gonna be like, I'm okay with it
I like
because
it.
There's so much already going on.
Right.
It doesn't need it. It was a nice little scare, a little jump scare.
Totally,
for us.
totally.
It was fine.
Nice way to just be like, you like effects? We got more.
Yeah.
We're still firing. Because I prefer. I mean, of course, you're not going to actually have that happen in film because it doesn't really work for it to be true in that film that happens.
For the story that they're telling,
right?
It's too much.
Really, too much for exactly too much for that story. I still kind of prefer to like. She's like, so I'm thinking about having this abortion, and Jeff Goldblum's like, yeah, like, gotcha, bitch. You know what I mean? Like towards the end, it starts getting kind of campy in some respects, but like, it keeps enough weight. I think that I'm okay with.
I think it earned it enough.
Yeah, totally earned it
through that journey. Like at a certain point, it does have to kind of come to an end.
Right.
So when we're kind of at that point, it does start to sort of feel like formulaic.
Yeah.
At a certain point, but like, I enjoyed the journey so much. I was fine.
I 100% agree. Which actually, like, now that I'm talking about that, it sort of puts back into perspective what you're saying about the shotgun. You saw the guy jump through the window. Like, maybe be ready. Like, clearly, he's like super strong now.
Well, I'm gonna assemble this on site, Pilgrim.
So he gets a raw deal.
Yeah, he does. Now this, I'm talking about like. From what I remember seeing in my youth, the acid vomit, that must have terrified the shit out of me. And it's like, I know it looks goofy today, but like I definitely saw this probably in the 80s. Yeah, and that just scared the shit out of me. They're like, oh my god, is that gonna happen to my dad?
It's the goofiest effect, but it's still like the movie has totally earned the right to kind of like
exactly like all the effects have looked really good up to that point. So you're able to like, okay, that looks a little stupid, but.
Which I think is the smart call with the effects, that the things that are kind of like clearly human can look a little dated, but they've made this amazing design that is not human, and like that shit holds up in a way that that I love that their design gets away from, like, it doesn't just look like a fly.
Yeah.
And it's this crazy mutation. The interpretation is amazing. It serves the movie very well.
So slow. I think there were 7 different sort of fly costumes that Jeff Goldblum had to kind of wear, and that slow build, it's just beautiful in the remake.
Nailed it.
I love the practical effects, and you're just thinking about like if that had been made today, just like the amount of CG.
Oh yeah.
Probably would have looked good. You know, but it's like something about those practical effects.
Just something about it. I mean, I talked about this actually a decent amount with CGI films lately, but like costumes, puppets, and stuff like that, still to this day work very well on film. For instance, and I think we mentioned this, like Baby Yoda, like that's a puppet, $1 million puppet, and it works. It works, and I like when movies still use practical effects because a lot of times, like you mentioned, CGI just will take you out of it. What do you think about the parallels? They're both suicidal in a way. Like, one's like this very slow press. That must have sucked. Like that must have really sucked.
Can we speed it up a little? Oh god!
And then she has to go back. Didn't get the arm.
Yeah. Which is weird. Do you think it would totally like destroy any evidence that this man was a fly?
No, I don't think so.
So you really had to kind of little suspension of disbelief there, right?
Totally had to suspend disbelief, and I think Vincent Price has kind of like a throwaway line about, that would like basically like destroy like metal, or like it was set level or something like that.
Even metal on that would become nothing.
Yeah. Vincent Price.
I never tried Vincent Price before.
He is so good. He's great. The movie's trying to explain why there's no evidence of fly.
Yeah, it's like, that's definitely not a human head. Like, nobody said that. It's just completely destroyed.
Going back to like Patricia Owens, who's, she's selling, she doesn't want to look, but press the button, grabs a hand, press the button again. Gina Davis is like conflicted. She's like, dude, I do not want to shoot.
She almost doesn't.
And like, beautiful cinematography to have Jeff Goldblum's fly be like, nope, here's my head. You fucking
Fucking do it.
I fuse with a telepod, dude.
Yeah, look at me, I'm part metal. This is painful.
That just sucks.
It's like, I wanted to live before, but now that I'm part machine, maybe just kill me.
He's like, I've gone too far. I realize this now.
That is an interesting thing, though, because like he doesn't want to die until he's fused with part of the telepod.
Yeah.
So, do you think if he was still a fly, that he would still be like trying to fuse with her?
Maybe. I think the same way it's comical in the original that the fly is taking over. Can't.
Oh, we didn't even talk about that.
Can't do fly stuff.
Okay.
Must smash my lab with an
As much as Andre doesn't have much to do acting-wise in the original, there are moments where his fly hand starts to get out of control, and he takes his human hand and tries to stop it from moving.
I'm quite literally wrestling with my humanity. Type more furiously.
Yeah, again, which by today's standards does come across as comical and cheap.
It's goofy, but I like that they start to switch from the typewriter to him writing. I think it makes it more conflicting and like human. He's like, I can barely write anymore.
Right.
Like I said, it's goofy, but for the time, it definitely works. And I do like that play of you're explaining that he is losing his humanity. He's giving up hope because he knows what Patricia Owens doesn't know, that his brain is going.
Right.
Jeff Goldblum, to your point, doesn't really recognize it.
Yeah. Until like the
right there at the end, and he to the point where he's like, "I'm gonna fuse with you and fuse with the fly, and we're gonna be like
we're gonna be the most tight family ever."
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god,
we'll be like 3 things in one. It's like, no, dude.
You, me, the baby. So creepy.
Keeping the baby. Oh my god. His turn is clearly like becomes more villainous and monstrous, as we said before. But he's not aware of it at all. She's obviously very aware of what's happening to him and is super concerned. But even in that moment, she doesn't want to shoot him because she still feels the human side of it, even though he's become this monster. And like I said, I guess once he was like, all right, now I'm just mixed with machine and this is too much. Please shoot me. Kill me now. And she sells that too. She sells that.
She still doesn't want to kill him. It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
He almost successfully fused with her if the other guy wasn't dead yet.
Yeah.
And would have. But luckily that shotgun finally came into play.
Yeah, I'm going to shoot the cord.
It worked. Wait, so he shot the cord, so then she wouldn't transport?
Her telepod was off. His was still on.
Okay.
Basically. That's what I got out of it.
That's what I thought, too.
Yeah.
Which I guess makes sense. You know, I kind of like it, though, because, like, Gina Davis should be the one to kill him.
Yeah, totally. I think that that's actually a fair assessment, that it would be sort of the movie cop-out for the White Knight to come in and, like, save the day. Like, he's very ineffective, John Getz, in that scene. And pretty much there for acid fodder. Like, we see this guy's leg now. Oh, shit, he's going to, like, do the face. So, like, we're going to get an Indiana Jones situation.
That scared the shit out of me when I was a kid.
I'm like, oh, my God.
Oh, God.
Solids. They hurt now.
So Mr. Fly has to vomit all over them.
Brundle Fly.
Oh, he's so good at it.
Such a good... Dude, what? It's awesome. Let's watch it again. I don't know. The effects are amazing in the remake. I would say probably the best effect in the original, and it's been done before, but like was during her scream, the multiple, the fly lens. Like
the point of view of the fly.
Yeah. That was cool, but like, I mean, come on, dude. Like, this remake's winning that fight. And just, man, the idea of like, maybe that's part of why she was fighting with shooting him too. The idea that she's pregnant with this guy's baby, and what does that mean? Like, that's still a mystery. Apparently they get to that in the sequel, but I don't know if I want to watch that.
You don't, I'll say that. But, you know, you kind of, I just thought of something as you were saying that. Like, maybe she wanted to, like, still kind of save him, because if she could save him, who's clearly fucking gone, there's hope for her baby. I didn't even
that's an interesting thought, actually. Yeah, maybe there is something.
Yeah, this guy was clearly gone as far as he is.
Right.
If there's still some hope for him, maybe there's still hope for her baby.
Yeah. I don't know if it's an allegory, but it's the same story. It's like a man becoming a fly, but then they introduce these elements, and they just put all this depth into what's more or less straightforward retelling of a science mishap.
Yeah, it's just pretty much a B movie.
Yeah.
Like, and then you add all this depth to it. You slow it down.
Yeah.
So that we can go on the journey longer. You know, it's not just like from black to white all of a sudden. There's a lot of gray in between.
I don't know if I would be able to sit through the original film if they didn't make it mystery.
That mystery, yeah. Like, if they had done it in the order.
I think that I just don't think it would have been compelling enough for me. But like by not knowing what was going on, I was hooked the whole time. This one is like, I know what's going on and I'm hooked because it's getting weirder.
Yeah, it's like how far they can take it.
Right. Nothing recognizable as a fly is been shown to me. How are they going to do this? Right. And by then I'm like, ew, that's...
kill that thing.
I'm like... yeah, I never thought I'd be like yelling at my TV, get that abortion! Like, gotta do it. And like you said at the end, like, that thing has to fucking die. Give me the shotgun. It's truly horrifying. It's a scary fucking movie, man.
It still holds up today.
And it's just like you're saying, like, you're like, could this happen to my dad? And like, now I'm watching, like, I don't want to know what it'd be like to feed a fly. It's like, marathon sex with Gina Davis is not worth becoming a fly. It's like, how do you have any fluids up your body? Bundle. Love Goldblum's performance. I love Gina Davis's performance. Yeah. In the original, it's like, my favorite character is Vincent Price, but like, he's not really given a lot to do.
Yeah, and he's really not in the flashbacks.
No. It would have been compelling if like a Vincent Price was becoming a fly, you know, and seeing that journey.
Okay.
But what they did was fine. It's different.
It's different, yeah. It's strange, like, too, that like your main character isn't the person who turns into a fly.
Right.
So, you know, it's interesting, but not as compelling as going on the journey with that person.
If you had seen more of the original actor, besides him just like kind of scribbling notes and not paying attention at the opera or ballet, or whatever, like it could be
squared plus B squared. I'm sorry, my wife. I was doing more math science. Did you want to watch this art?
Yeah, it's like can't be bothered with date night. We need to talk about this yet. We like jump straight to the end. The effect of like transferring living matter the first time. The way that's portrayed in both films, there's like so when he puts Dandaloo, his cat, into the machine for dubious ethical reasons, and it's just like, I don't know where my cat is, and like, where's that coming from?
I wrote down ghost cat in my notes after that. Yeah, so let's just to clarify, in the original film, Andre gets the crazy idea after he's feeding his cat, his house pet.
Right.
I'm gonna teleport this animal, this innocent animal for no reason.
Mouse or something?
That's what I'm saying. Like, both films are guilty of this, but we'll get to that. So he teleports the cat with the dish. So if that happened in the remake, the cat would be infused with the dish.
I was sitting there, I was like, oh shit, is he gonna infuse this cat? Is this cat about to become like like what you get in the remake is close to what I thought was gonna happen to this cat. I'm like, holy shit, is this cat gonna become like milk?
So he fuses the cat, or he teleports the cat in the plate, but only the plate teleports, and then the cat is just kind of like meowing in the universe somewhere. Yeah, its atoms are like in the air. Like I said, I wrote ghost cat down, which is messed up. Not as messed up as like him going, I tried to teleport a cat and the cat's gone. She's like, why'd you do that? Because I wanted to.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's like, well, promise you won't do any more animals.
It's like, dude, you just put the house pet in this device and
pretty much
killed it.
He told no one.
And you're fine with that? You know, it's just reminding me of when we did the Amityville Horror when Ryan Reynolds killed the dog and we weren't on his side anymore. It's like, whoa, you just killed your cat.
Right.
And you're just glossing over it, like, oh, in the name of science, right, honey?
I let you and my son look for it for 2 weeks. Said nothing. And now I'm going to reveal it in a very horrifying way.
50s were a different time, totally, I guess. Totally. We didn't really value our house pets.
Now, I may have gotten rid of our cat, but look, it works.
It works, so I'm a genius. Again, couldn't get a mouse. I'm against testing on animals, but, your house pet versus, like, a mouse or maybe, like, an insect or something.
I I guess he's not really a cat person. You wouldn't put your dog in
exactly.
experimental machine. You would find something else.
This thing that I've loved for years that might die. Yeah, of course I would.
He never did the math of what happens if this doesn't work. Now the remake.
Whoa, the remake.
Whoa.
Gets a baboon.
Right.
And he puts it in the teleporter, and it does not disappear into the universe.
No, it does not.
It I don't know, turns inside out or something, for the lack of a better term.
What a great effect, dude. Yeah. It's like this weird, fleshy, organ-y thing, and it's just it's still alive.
Bloody as hell. It puts his bloody paw to the window of the teleporter, and just it's gruesome as hell. Again, you couldn't get a mouse buddy?
Right. Even that, I don't care what you put in there. With that effect, I would have been you know what? I think I need to take a couple weeks off of the teleporting game. But Goldblum in typical Goldblum fashion, just man, type, let's figure out what happened.
He's a little upset over it.
Yeah.
But in the name of science, I guess. And Gina Davis is not that disturbed. As great as the performance she's given the whole film, she's not really disturbed that you just turned a monkey kind of inside out.
Right.
And just on top of that, he tests it again on another baboon. Where's he getting these baboons from?
These New York City baboons?
What pet store is going, you kind of bought 5 baboons earlier this week, but I'm going to sell you a 6th one just because I trust you. It's dude, you stop selling baboons. This guy's clearly doing something terrible to baboons.
Also, this loft or whatever he lives in, what's the electric bill?
That's true.
I'm just imagining some landlord being Goldblum, the monkeys, the sounds. What are you doing up there? You've been having sex with Gina Davis for 8 hours now. Some of us are trying to sleep. I don't know. Those little movie mysteries are if you stop and ask the question, you're where are the monkeys coming from?
Where the monkeys come from? And there's a deleted scene in the remake where he fuses the monkey with a dog.
Fuck that.
I think it's a dog. He fuses it with something because he's testing out doing 2 into 1.
Oh my god.
And he has to kill it.
Yeah.
They cut it because they're he's not redeemable after he kills that mutated animal. Even if it is spliced with something else, it's still kind of messed up what you did with. That's why you don't see the baboon anymore.
Yeah. That's a good cut.
Yes.
Just him doing the baboon experiment in the first place was probably enough for us to be okay, this is clearly dangerous.
Yeah,
no one in their right
playing God here.
No one in their right mind would try to use this technology, and he's still going.
He just gets drunk. You seem all right. I'm gonna do it on myself.
Just wow. So fucking good. It's a good movie, man.
It's really good.
I know we're tipping our hand a
little early. Is there any other things we want to talk about? We had talked a little bit about Francois Philippe. Do we want to talk about Tawny at all? The guy Goldblum meets in the remake, or just really do anything? Or
yeah, I mean,
it just goes into his oversexed thing.
I guess in this point we're sort of talking about auxiliary or side characters. The original, I would say, pound for pound has the better kind of side characters. They're more consequential. The inspector, it actually matters what his opinion is.
Philippe definitely helps find the fly at the end.
True. Philippe, yeah, I guess he would fall in that category, even though he's a son. He is more or less an auxiliary character. So they're doing more in the film. Whereas John gets, he gets a shotgun at the end, but
does save Gina Davis.
That's okay. All right. Pretty important guy. All right, you got me there.
Tony doesn't really do anything though.
Tony doesn't.
Just another chick to bang.
Yeah.
But we do get that cool line from Gina Davis, be afraid, be very afraid.
Yes.
So you get that from her. Which was creepy that she's just there. Gina Davis.
Right.
I was whoa, you're there? And you're totally cool with him banging this other chick? Weird.
Super weird. And Tony on the way out, thanks for the fun time. That little dig. She probably should have stopped to finish putting her clothes on before walking out the door.
A little bit.
It's all right, you're not wearing a shirt, just a jacket, and your pants are in your hands. It's real barfly behavior here. I guess you're just used to that walk of shame, as they called it in college.
Do we want to talk about the bar where you got her?
The bar is I don't know. It's the seediest bar ever.
I mean, the bar of Superman 2. Okay, gets his ass kicked.
It is like that. It's totally like that. Like,
I didn't really. Yeah, it was mostly just the practical effect.
Yeah.
Just again, really good use of it. And yeah, when I saw the bone snap, it's I had to turn away.
like
Really good use.
just kind of like based on how the film was going. Like we've said this about other movies, like the ramp up, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
Like you know something bad's about to happen here.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
It's not just gonna slam this guy's hand down. Like,
hey, good arm wrestling match, chump. Yeah, you too.
Breaks his arm. Come on, lady. We're going to my house.
Let's hit up a few bars first. Okay, we'll hit up a few bars.
Really got to get back to banging. And she's like, I'm too tired to walk up the stairs. Like, there's no elevators. Like,
he's like, I need to bang. I will carry you.
It's just, he becomes so frantic by the end. Like, he's so, like, just like.
Must be all that sugar.
Yeah, it must be. I don't know, like. That's what I would say Tawny brings to the film, is that it's just another one chance for practical effects, is another chance to see him acting strangely without it being Gina Davis. I think that there is value to seeing someone else seeing him like this. And even though, again, we all know this is all screwed up, but even she's reacting well enough that, like, we haven't fully made the monster turn yet.
Mm-hmm. He still looks like Jeff Goldblum.
Still a Goldblum, you know? I want to see him do like an apartments.com commercial with the apartment from The Fly. You know? Here's where the telepod could go. I would say, again, besides like Vincent Price, who to me feels still kind of like a lead, but could fall under auxiliary in a way.
I think he's kind of up there with Andre, honestly.
I think so. I would say the inspector brings more to the table because he's unraveling mystery as well.
Yeah.
And his reaction at the end is just like, fuck that.
Rock on you.
Like no human spider, human fly things.
Help me.
And just like him sitting on the bench like, oh, bro. Like,
I've seen some shit, but that was shit.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, I've seen a guy's body crushed in the press within the past couple of days, but this is messed up. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much...
Yeah, they're really short films. They're both about an hour and a half each.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything else.
There's not really a lot left to unpack. I mean, really, it's just two different ways of showing a scientist trying, who's like ethically and like dubiously outside of the range of what he should be doing, like that playing God thing that you're saying,
right? And
what can happen, I guess, when you're playing God. There's two different ways of portraying it. One sort of mysterious and tragic in a way for a family, and the other one just like mysterious and tragic in so many different ways, whether it's the pregnancy, his transformation, like it is fucked up. And I guess the one thing that we didn't talk about, which I guess is why the movie sort of opened itself up for sequels, you don't get the same destruction of the technology. Like there's regret in the original.
He destroys everything. He takes an axe, remember?
That's what I'm saying. No, sorry. So in the original, there is like this regret. He gets rid of it. He
burns his notes. He erases everything.
He doesn't want anyone else messing with this technology. Jeff Goldblum never really comes to that realization. Like he destroys himself, but like the technology is still...
It's still there. Any notes he had are still there. Well, I mean, they kind of get into it in the sequel. I'm kind of getting into it. They're having trouble teleporting things in the sequel.
Yeah.
They're trying to get the son to figure it out. So.
Huh. Okay. I mean, interesting. You know.
They teleport a dog. It does not end well in the sequel.
I like that. Done. What you did was perfect. There's nothing else that we need to see in the original film.
I feel like the original really tied everything in like a nice, neat package. Like you said, they destroyed everything. Mm-hmm. The uncle, mom, and son are like kind of happy in a nice, pleasant garden.
Yeah.
You know? They're not really like horrified by the events that just occurred in their lives. They're not, remorseful for the loss of Andre at all. They all seem like they've moved on and their lives are going to be just great.
Right. In a way, I guess the one who wins the most here, Vincent Price.
Yeah. gets to be with Elaine, who he says he loves.
Always loved her, and like there was a moment where I'm like, is he involved in this? Did he like do something to his brother? Like
that would have been interesting.
That could have been an interesting thing, because I thought at some point, whether it's him showing her how to operate the press or something like that, or like him finding out, because like there's a scene where he goes into the basement to like talk to him, and they never really So it just kind of like, he went down and he just leaves. Like,
yeah, I thought that was really weird. I was
weird.
I was trying to think, like, you never actually see Vincent Price and I forget his name, the actor who plays Andre. You never see them in the same scene together.
Right.
I wasn't sure if there was like a shooting conflict where they just couldn't get their schedules to align, but you never see them together. It's strange because it's like it's your brother,
right?
And you're trying to unravel this version about your brother, but you never interact with him at all.
And there's even like this allusion to like they do stuff like this together. Like they talk about the lab and like they've done other experiments as a duo. So like I thought the original had left space open for him to have been involved, like to know about the machine and stuff like that. But it's okay that he doesn't. I just thought that could have been an interesting route to go as well.
I mean, they made 2 sequels.
That's true.
So.
I don't know. Every time I hear sequels with movies I like, I get nervous. I get super nervous. It's like, is this going to be like a good sequel, or are we
Probably
Arthur 2?
Those are the 2 black and white sequels. So, anything else? I mean, I guess maybe I just had like a little thing, like just about the music.
Sure.
I noticed in the original there wasn't really like a lot of music. I think there was music during the opening credits.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there was any music at all until the first flashback.
Right.
Which was like, wow, that's a bold move to not have any music at all. You're just carrying me with dialogue, and
it's
it was a little boring at
sure.
times.
I can see that. I mean, especially like the scenes where it's just Andre and Helene just kind of like interacting before there's any real, science or mystery. It is kind of super boring.
Yeah.
The good thing that keeps you involved is the mystery hook.
Yeah.
But if you take that element out,
I think it loses a lot.
That'd be a rough watch.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you're right. I don't really hear a lot of music in the original. Like the remake, I don't know, man. That movie's just firing on like all cylinders.
Yeah. Like I said, you had Howard Shore doing the music.
Just like
great composer in the remake.
Just like the ambient, like the film tonally, like as both visually and sound wise, like as a package, it's incredible. And it just ramps up, and it takes you on this crazy roller coaster, and all the way into the end, it's just a wild ride.
Yeah. And just, I guess if we want to maybe just talk about the ending of the remake, because we talked about the original, the ending of the remake just ends after she shoots.
Seth Brundle.
After she shoots Brundle, yeah. So the remake just ends pretty much straight after she shoots him, and then just credits. And you're just like kind of sitting there like, what just happened?
Right.
You're really trying to like just take it in. So you don't get the happy ending. It's not a neat little package, and I think it plays well with what they had been building with that world. So it makes more sense.
Totally. Like
they wanted to, I think, end originally with her giving birth. But I think it was a good choice to keep that as sort of a dream sequence.
I think that there was no need to complicate it. I think they leave you with this sense of almost like dread.
Yeah,
like,
dread's the word. Yes.
I'm like, holy shit! Like what? Like the implication of what you've seen. It's like, could you imagine a world where like something like that happened?
Yes, because you showed it really well, so I can't imagine it.
So it's like. Like I said, you could sit back like we're doing right now. Like our discussion is longer than the film itself because we're just sitting here like, what happens if she has this kid? Like, what's going to happen with this technology? Like, is that it? Like, is that it? There's enough kind of sci-fi mystery that like, I don't know, man. Like, this seems like something that it's bad that this exists, and what I've witnessed is truly horrifying. Truly horrifying. Whereas like the original, like we said, just allows you to get off of the ramp. Like the original kind of like ended it like the help me scene. I don't know. I don't think an audience at that time. I think they needed to package that up for them. It's a little outlandish. It's just like everything's fine.
Yeah, it's so weird too. It's like the son's just like everything's okay, Uncle. Everything's okay, nephew.
Let's go to the zoo.
Yeah,
like,
let's all be at. Now you're my daddy, probably. Probably. I've been wanting to bang your mom for a while.
Thought about it all your entire life. My pesky brother finally out of the way. But another point though is like the killing of Andre doesn't really matter to us because.
No, because you start off the movie.
Who is he?
He was.
Yeah, he's been dead the whole time.
Yeah, he was already. We know he's gonna die, and you didn't really do anything to sort of endear us to him.
Mm-hmm.
So we were okay with him dying. We just wanted to know, I guess, the how.
Right. The how is important, and with Goldblum, it's like you're behind the guy early on, but the monster he becomes.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, dude, you just gotta get rid
You
of that.
gotta go.
This can't.
You got to
this
go.
cannot be a thing anymore.
Yeah.
So.
And it's like, can he be redeemed? It's like, I guess at a certain point, the answer is just no. And you're just saying, just like, how is this just going to end?
Right. I agree. It's like, at some point, you're just like, you know what? Wash my hands of it.
Yeah.
You're like Gina Davis. Like, I am pregnant with this guy's kid. That just can't be a fact anymore. And she's, doing her damnedest to sort of cleanse herself of this whole event. And, like, the movie's good about not giving us our own sort of cleanse. You just got to sit in this horror. It's fascinating.
It's really fascinating. Well, unless there's anything else you got to say, I think we should get to our verdicts.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty obvious.
It's very apparent, but I'll say this in terms of final thoughts.
Okay.
The original film works because of the mystery of it. The remake takes this very bold choice of just saying, let's throw that out, and we're just going to tell the story straight. And what could easily, in the wrong hands, go off the rails into just the absurd and the is just it's deeply unsettling. It makes you think about things just beyond a man turning into a fly. It makes you, I don't know, there's like this human element, there's this monster element, like the horrors that science could bring upon us. It just makes you think all while completely terrifying you. The effects are incredible, and I mean, if you're asking me if this remake should exist, hell yeah, it should exist. Stands alone. You don't need to see the original to enjoy this. They're really not even that closely connected.
No.
I'm glad that the remake exists. One of the best films that we've watched so far.
Yeah.
Hands down.
I guess if you're asking me, should the remake exist, I'll just answer by saying this. I think this is the best remake we've seen.
Yeah.
Judging it based on its source material, they went above and beyond making this remake. Like you said, what the original has going for it is that mystery and, I guess, the shock of a man becoming a fly. Mm-hmm. And then that's pretty much all it has. And the remake doesn't rely on the shock. You know he's going to turn into a fly. It goes into these areas you don't expect it to go.
Right.
And it's really disturbing, the areas it goes to. And that's just, as a movie watcher, it's just so intriguing that they decided to go there. It's good that they decided to throw out a lot of the original stuff from the movie because it really made it its own thing. Mm-hmm. We talked about, like, maybe Little Shop of Horrors kind of made it its own, but the remake of The Fly really is its own thing. It's
another level.
It's amazing what they did. And just going to, like, the way the stories were told in the way the story was told in the remake, the portrayals by our lead actor and actress are just amazing. And I mean, I can't say enough good things about practical effects.
Yeah.
It won an Academy Award for makeup, and it deserved it so much. It was just, I love practical effects, and this is one of the examples of like just such good uses of practical effects, and it's combined with the story and the acting. It was amazing. I love this remake. If you haven't seen it, what are you doing? Yeah. Watch this remake. Definitely, I think, one of the best remakes I've ever seen.
I want to do a flashback to myself not seeing this movie for 30 years and I punch myself. What are you doing, you idiot? But, man, I don't know how often we're going to enjoy a remake that just kind of like doesn't sit with the source material, because a lot of times some of the movies that we watch, when they make choices that take away, like Total Recall is a great example. It was like, this isn't like the thing that I like.
Yeah.
But like this one, the changes are, I don't know, it's a whole
changes are better.
Different thing, and it makes it a better story. I'm glad that they allowed themselves to go there.
And
it
was bold totally to do what they did, and it absolutely paid off.
So, highly recommended. Go watch this remake. Give the original a shot. It's still a very good movie, especially considering when it was made. I thoroughly enjoyed watching it. There were some cheesy parts, and there were parts that you said were a little bit more boring.
Definitely laughable parts in the original.
But unfortunately, we probably spoiled it for you already. But like, without the spoiler, actually trying to figure out what's going on was a fun ride.
That's the strength of the original, is that mystery.
Mm-hmm. But the remake just, I don't know, dude. Everything. It's all good. Everything about it.
Nothing but good things to say about that remake. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, I guess on that note, Reggie, we should try to figure out what we're going to do next.
Right. And we should have thought about this.
while we were waiting. That's all right. We'll figure it out now. All right, next episode. What should we do?
So, I'm thinking we've had a decent amount of horror recently. We've had things that have been more cerebral, I think, lately.
Okay.
I want to do something that is thrilling, but a little more action-oriented, but also not burning good movies, because I think the visual component is getting good, but I want to save some of that for later as we get better at this. This is my safe pick for this.
Okay.
Let's watch Poseidon.
Poseidon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Boat movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boat.
Yeah.
The boat turns upside down, right?
The boat turns upside down.
I remember when the remake came out. I
Yeah.
won't say if I saw it or not, but I do remember when that came out. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got more opinions about these films than you would think.
Okay.
In a quick hit, I also highly recommend you watch the Pokemon episode that is also based off of those films.
Okay.
Yeah, the episode where James from Team Rocket gets his magic carp is on, I believe, that cruise ship, and it gets Poseidon.
Okay, I don't know if was it one of the early seasons, because I only saw like the
super early.
I only saw the early seasons of Pokemon.
I think it's actually within like the first 10 episodes.
Okay, then I probably saw it.
Yeah,
I just probably didn't realize it was based on Poseidon.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So,
all right, Poseidon. Why not? Boat turns upside down. It's all about it.
Yep. The original has like more of a title to it, like the Poseidon Journey or something like that. But yeah, we're watching Poseidon, and I'm also recommending that we watch the Pokemon episode that is based on the same material.
Okay, I'll check out the Pokemon.
I'll send you the link.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
All right. Well, that was another good episode, man. That was great.
Fun.
Great movies.
I find that when we start talking, sometimes I like movies more than when I was watching them. Like,
yeah.
I was like, this is good. Then we start talking. I was like, it was great. Slam dunk. Mutant Goldblum. Yeah. Well.
Okay. Well, I'm Dan Bulick. You guys check us out on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, obviously YouTube, Spotify, iTunes. If you can give us 5 stars on iTunes, help us grow.
Help it out.
Much appreciated. But yeah.
Tell us what you like. If there's something you don't like, just be nice about it. We're sensitive. But yeah, no. I'm Reggie Parker.
And I'm Dan Bulick.
This was another episode of
Retro versus Remake.